change is external. Change is the event, but transition is internal. It's the psychological journey we go through as we adapt to change. But you can't successfully adapt without navigating through some sort of transition. And there are at least 3 phases to every transition. First, there's an ending. Second, there's the neutral zone. And finally, there's the new beginning. But here's the thing. You can't skip the first 2 phases. You can't jump straight to the new beginning, no matter how much you want to. And when you're going through multiple changes at once, you're in different phases of transition for different things. Welcome. You're listening to This Leader, the podcast. If you lead people and are seeking the transformational, high-impact secrets that will lead to greater joy and fulfillment in your work, will optimize your team performance, and will help you create a happy, highly productive workplace, then you are this leader and you're in the right place. I'm your host, Claire Laughlin, and each week my guests and I will explore the mindsets, techniques, and actionable strategies that will help you build the career, team, and organization of your dreams. Because I believe no one should have to suffer in a dysfunctional workplace. Let's get started. Hi there. Welcome to This Leader. I had a little breakdown last week, and so that's a little embarrassing, but I want to share a bit of it because it's reminded me about the importance of really understanding the change process. So here's what happened. I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, so to speak, right? I was just feeling off, way off, and I knew it. And this isn't typical for me, so it caught my attention. My husband and I were heading down to our ranch, or a place we call the ranch that we own, that we were just going to get away for the day. But, I could tell I was in a mood. And so I skipped my workout that morning so we could leave a little earlier. That was my first bad choice. And then as we drove, my husband asked me several times, what's wrong, right? Because of course he could tell something was off. And I told him, like I said, I don't know. I'm just off today. I'm not feeling right. I should have let it rest right there. Second bad choice was that I didn't. Because the next thing that happened was quite regrettable. Like, my husband made a comment about our 2 sons moving out of the house, which they are in the midst of doing right now. But his comment was sort of about accelerating the timeline. And I just sort of lost it. And we had an argument over it. And the truth is, he didn't say anything wrong. I was actually in agreement that we needed to get behind this thing of them moving out of the house and make sure it happened. All that was true. But I was totally unaware of how much emotion was lurking under the surface for me with respect to that particular topic. I mean, these are my boys. These are my 2 favorite people, and they're moving out of the house at the same time. And while, of course, it is the right thing, they are adults after all, it's a big transition for all of us. And the emotion of that change has been brewing for me for months. So, has that ever happened to you? Where you act just a little irrationally and you can't figure out why? I'm guessing it has somewhere along the line. So in hindsight, it reminded me of the emotional and psychological weight of navigating the rough waters of change. Because when change is all around us, we carry that stress. And we often think that we are handling everything just fine until we're not. So here we are on This Leader, my podcast dedicated to understanding the transformational, high-impact secrets and strategies that unlock our leadership potential. Why am I talking about an argument with my husband? Because as leaders, my friends, self-awareness is golden. And in hindsight, that particular emotional upheaval I was experiencing, it wasn't at all about my husband's comment. It wasn't even solely about my kids moving out. It was about how our brains and our emotions respond to change. And today is about shining light on these invisible forces that can radically influence our relationships, our attitudes, and our actions. So today, let's talk about change. I'm going to introduce a few simple frameworks and strategies that can really illuminate the undercurrents you might be experiencing and help you steer the ship with greater ease. Okay, So let's start with understanding what's happening in your brain when change is swirling around you. Because it turns out there's a neurological explanation for why I had that breakdown in the car that day. Neuroscientist David Rock has done incredible research on how our brains respond to change, and he developed the SCARF model as a result. And he says that our brain is constantly scanning for threats. It's trying to keep us safe. And when it comes to change, there are 5 key areas where we perceive threat. SCARF, it stands for status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. So let me just break that down. Status. This one is about our standing in, relative to others, our position, our influence, our reputation. When change threatens any of those things, our brain registers a threat response. Think about a reorganization at work. Or let's say you get a new manager and suddenly you're reporting to someone new or your role has shifted. Even if it's lateral, your brain might be asking, wait, did I just lose status? Okay. Certainty. This one is huge. Our brains love predictability. We want to feel secure in our understanding of how things work. And change, by definition, brings uncertainty. And uncertainty, that triggers our threat response. So if you're a regular listener, you probably know that my dad has Alzheimer's. We talk about uncertainty. Every day feels unknown. Some days are good, other days are really hard. Nothing is really predictable. And that lack of certainty, it's actually emotionally exhausting for all of us. Autonomy. This is our sense of control over our circumstances. When change feels imposed on us, like when we have no say in it and we feel like things are happening to us rather than with us, our brain perceives threat. So, for example, if there's changes happening in the environment around you, you might feel a real loss of autonomy. You have no control, and that's very hard. For example, if you are facing changes out in the environment, the economy, say even the introduction of AI, you might be feeling that this change is happening to you and you're sort of out of control. Many of my clients are facing big changes due to changes in federal funding sources. And that can be a real hook, right? So it's change that's outside of our control. And when we don't have control, it feels stressful. Relatedness is next. And this is about our connections and relationships. It's about our sense of belonging. And when change threatens those conditions, when we worry about how it might affect our relationships, this one gets activated. My son's moving out. That's a change in my daily relationship with them. And that's big time relatedness being activated. And fairness is the last one. And when we perceive that we or others are being treated unfairly in the midst of change, you guessed it, threat response. Like maybe you didn't get a promotion that you expected, or maybe your teammate got the resources you asked for, or maybe some new policy seems arbitrary. Your brain is scanning the world for violations of fairness. Now, here's what's really important to understand. These threat responses are happening below our conscious awareness. I certainly wasn't sitting in the car thinking, oh, my certainty is being threatened or my relatedness is under threat. I was just feeling off, irritable, overwhelmed, ready to kind of snap. And when my husband made an innocent comment about the moving out timeline, that's the match that lit the fuse. Because my brain was already in threat mode. Multiple SCARF elements were activated, and I was running on a heightened stress response without even knowing it. So when you feel off, like when you have a reaction that surprises you, ask yourself, what threats might I be experiencing right now? Is my status being threatened or my certainty, my autonomy, my relatedness, my sense of fairness? Sometimes just naming it can help calm that threat response. Okay, so that's what's happening in your brain. But there's another layer here that's equally important, and that's understanding the difference between change and transition. William Bridges, who is a brilliant thinker about organizational change, made this crucial distinction. He said that change is external. Change is the event. It's, say, the new job or the restructuring or the person leaving or the kids moving out, okay? But transition is internal. It's the psychological journey we go through as we adapt to change. And here's the thing. You can have change all around you, but you can't successfully adapt without navigating through some sort of transition. And this is really important to us as change leaders. When we understand this and the impact of threat, we'll be much more capable of leading the way for our teams through transition. So Bridges said there are at least 3 phases to every transition, and it's important to understand all 3. First, there's an ending. Even when change is positive, even when it's something we choose, something is ending. And we need to acknowledge that ending. We need to let go. When my kids move out, I'm ending the phase of having them live at home, right? I'm ending a whole phase of life. I'm ending daily dinners together. I'm ending the casual conversations in the kitchen. And that's an ending, even though it's also a beginning. If I don't acknowledge the ending, if I don't give myself permission to grieve what's being lost, it's going to come out sideways, like just how it did. Second, there's the neutral zone. This is the in-between time, the liminal space. The old way is gone, but the new way isn't fully established yet. Everything feels uncertain and uncomfortable. You're not who you were, but you're not yet who you're becoming. This is uncomfortable. And this is where I am right now with so many changes in my own life and that awkward middle space. The neutral zone is hard. It's where resistance shows up. It's where we feel really vulnerable and unproductive. And it's where we question everything. It's also where the most important psychological reorientation happens. It's where we figure out who we're becoming and what the new reality looks like, how we're going to operate in this new normal. And you can't rush the neutral zone. And frankly, trying to rush it sometimes just extends it. Finally, there's the new beginning. And this is when we've eventually made peace with the ending, we've navigated the neutral zone, and we're ready to fully embrace the new reality. We start to have energy again. We have more clarity and we can see the path forward. But here's the thing, you can't skip the first 2 phases. You can't jump straight to the new beginning, no matter how much you want to. And when you're going through multiple changes at once, like I am right now, you're in different phases of transition for different things. Maybe you've reached the new beginning with one change, but you're still in the ending phase for another. You're smack in the middle of the neutral zone for a third. My kids moving out? Right, I'm somewhere between ending and neutral. Navigating my dad's Alzheimer's? Still very much in the ending phase, like grieving the past. Changes in my business? There's some changes going on in my business. Some I chose and some I'm just rolling with. Some are in new beginnings. Others are in the neutral zone. No wonder I woke up feeling off that day, right? And here's one more critical piece. Even positive changes, things that we want, register as stress neurologically. Like you're getting promoted? Well, your brain registers change and has to adapt. You're moving to your dream home? Change. Kids graduating, getting married, starting new jobs? Change, 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 right? Your brain doesn't distinguish between good change and bad change. It just registers change, and change requires adaptation. And adaptation requires energy. So when you're going through multiple changes, even if they're exciting, wonderful changes, your nervous system is working overtime. Okay, so there are many models that we can use to look at change, but we've talked about SCARF, we've talked about the transition model from William Bridges. So now that you understand what's happening through those 2 lenses, let's do something really practical. I want you to create what I'm calling a change heat map. So grab a piece of paper right now if you can. Step 1, I want you to list all the things that you can think of that represent change that are going on for you right now. Just down the left side of your paper, write down all kinds of changes that you're navigating, all of them, big, small, work, personal, chosen, and imposed. Don't filter. Don't judge which ones are big enough to count. Just write them all down. I was even thinking, my niece just got married. That's not really a direct change for me in any way, but it represents something for me, a transition, a new phase of life. And even that I would write down, right? Got a new role at work? Write it down. Team member leaving? Write it down. Parents' health declining, kids starting school, seasons changing. You got a new software system? You got a home renovation? Write these things down. Just get them all out where you can see them. Okay, now that you have a list, we're going to go to step 2, which is feel the feelings. And this is the part we usually skip. And it's the most important part. It's the key to navigating the transition zone. If I had done this before I got in the car that day, I wouldn't be telling you this story right now. But I want you to go through your list one change at a time and just try to feel what you're feeling about that change. Not what you should feel, not what makes sense, but what you actually feel. And here's the key: don't judge your feelings. Don't figure out who's to blame. Don't try to fix them or make them go away. Just feel them for a minute and let them be. When I get stuck here, I pull out Brene Brown's book, The Atlas of the Heart. It's a beautiful book. If you don't own a copy, I feel like there needs to be one in every home. It's basically an encyclopedia of emotions. She maps out something like 89 different emotions and experiences. And here's what I've learned, right? Most of us have a really limited emotional vocabulary. We say we're stressed out or we're overwhelmed or we're fine. But stressed could mean anything. It could mean anxious, worried, fearful, pressured, frantic, or exhausted. And those are all different. They have different flavors to them, right? Overwhelmed, it could mean you're scattered or anguished or flooded or in dread. It could mean any of those. So as you go through each change on your list, ask yourself, what am I actually feeling about this? So let me show you what I mean with a couple things from my list. So my sons are moving out. When I sit with this one and I really let myself feel it, I feel a lot of things. There's some excitement. There's some pride. I'm happy for them. I'm proud of them. But there's also grief, loss, and nostalgia, like sort of a yearning for days gone by. There's a little anxiety. Will all this work out? Will everything be good? There's a little bit, I don't know, maybe some relief in there, which makes me feel a little guilty, right? See, it's complicated. There's a lot going on. And you know what? All of those feelings are valid, every single one. Many things can be true, okay? When I think about my dad's Alzheimer's, this one is really heavy. There's grief, there's deep, ongoing grief. There's fear about what's coming. There's helplessness. And there's frustration sometimes when we just have really difficult days. There's a lot of love and tenderness. There's gratitude. There's so many things mixed in. When I think about changes in my business, most of the changes in my business I choose, so I feel largely energized and hopeful and creative. But let's not kid ourselves. There's also a lot of uncertainty and vulnerability about putting new things out into the world. So do you see what's happening here? Like each change has its own emotional signature. When we don't acknowledge these emotions, we just kind of push through and tell ourselves we're fine or just focus on, the positive side. Those underlying emotions, they go underground and sometimes they come out sideways. So take your time with this step. Really sit with each change, especially, the big ones on your list, and feel what you're feeling. Write the emotions next to each change if that helps, or just notice them. Breathe into them a little bit. Give them some air. Let them move through you. This isn't about wallowing. It's about acknowledging reality and about telling the truth about your own experience. Okay, let's move on to step 3. This is mapping the changes. So now that you've listed things and you've kind of like gotten in touch with the feelings, let's make this visual. I want you to get a new piece of paper and we're going to draw a 2x2 matrix. So basically it's a big box with a line down the center of the box and a line through the middle. So it's like a cross in the middle. You're making a 2x2 matrix. And on the horizontal axis, I want you to write the word imposed on the left-hand side and chosen on the right. So this is going to represent sort of the axis between changes that are imposed on us or that are not of our choosing and those that are of our choosing on the right, left to right, imposed and chosen. And then top to bottom on the vertical axis, you can mark positive at the top and negative at the bottom. Okay, positive change, negative change. And this is just about the feelings you have about the change. Okay, so now you have 4 quadrants. Top left, positive and imposed. Top right, positive and chosen. Bottom left is negative and imposed, and bottom right is negative and chosen. Now, take each change from your list and sort of look at that matrix and see if you can place a dot somewhere on the matrix that represents that change. Okay. So we'll go back to my son's moving out. Positive in many ways. It's imposed for me, it's chosen for them. Like I'm putting that toward the middle because it's not entirely positive for me and it's not entirely imposed either, right? So that's why it's like a heat map. It's like put this sort of in the area that you think it might mostly or more than not seem to exist. My dad's condition, fully imposed. And I'm going to say that one's mostly negative. It's very difficult. So I'm going to put that in the bottom left quadrant. So some changes in my business, like my adoption of AI, I'm choosing these and they feel positive right now. So I'm going to put that in the top right. So what might go in the bottom right corner? Negative, but chosen. Like, why would we ever choose something? Why would we choose a change that felt negative? Well, this is where those really hard choices and trade offs go, like ending a relationship, for example, or letting go of an employee that you really like, but who isn't a fit, things like that. Things that, you are actively moving toward, but they're hard and they're definitely not entirely positive. So step back now and look at your paper. You should kind of have this heat map, right? And so here's what becomes clear when you see this visually. Changes in the bottom left quadrant, negative and imposed, those are your highest stress areas. That's where you're experiencing the most threat response, where your brain is sort of shouting, danger, danger. And look at the emotions you wrote down for those changes. I'm guessing they're, maybe somewhat heavy. There's probably some grief or some fear, anger, or helplessness down there. Bottom right, negative but chosen, still stressful, but you have more control. So different emotional quality, right? Maybe there's some determination in there, some resolve, even some empowerment mixed with guilt, you know? Top left is positive but imposed. These are sneaky. You might feel grateful, but also a little anxious, excited, but also out of control. Emotional complexity here can be a little bit confusing. And the top right, positive and chosen, even these have emotional nuance. Joy mixed with vulnerability, for example. Hope mixed with a little fear, stuff like that. So here's what I want you to notice. Just count your dots. Look at the heat map overall. How many changes are you navigating right now? And now think about all those emotions you just listed and you felt, all that complexity. If you're feeling a little exhausted, it's no wonder. When I did this exercise, I counted 8 significant changes. And when I let myself feel the full range of emotions attached to each one, I sure understood why I woke up feeling off that day and why an innocent comment set me off. I wasn't being irrational, I was being human. In this heat map, this is what we're navigating, my friends. It's not just cognitive, it's emotional. And just seeing it, just feeling it without judgment, that's really powerful because now you can make different choices about how you care for yourself. So let's talk about that. What do we actually do with this awareness? I'm going to give you 3 practical strategies, not because I have this all figured out. Clearly, I don't, but because there are things that can help us stay grounded when things feel like just too much. Strategy number 1, lower your expectations a little bit. This is huge and nobody talks about it enough. When you're navigating significant change, especially multiple changes, you need to give yourself permission to be a little less productive than usual. Your brain is using enormous amounts of energy to process all these transitions. You're in that neutral zone for multiple things, and your threat response is activated. You literally have less cognitive capacity for your regular work. So stop beating yourself up for not being as on as usual. Stop wondering why you can't focus quite like you normally do, and stop pushing yourself to maintain the same high levels of output when you're under a lot of stress and change. It's not sustainable, and trying to force it can just add more stress. So instead, ask yourself, what are the absolute essentials right now, and what can wait? What can I delegate or eliminate entirely? Give yourself permission to do just a little less, okay? To operate at, 75%, just for a while. This isn't forever. It's just during these seasons of heavy transition. Strategy number 2, I just call it creating quiet presence. Just quiet your mind. Honestly, I wish I would have done this a little bit more before we left for the ranch that day. Just sit down, look at the heat map, feel the feelings, do a body scan. This is what's going on for you, right? Identify how you're feeling and where you might be holding emotion and try to release it, right? You can breathe deeply or go exercise, be in nature. All of these are great strategies. Because I promise, in just a few minutes, when you see this picture, you can release some of that tension and be more centered for the whole day. Strategy number 3, lean into your support network. This one's huge for me. I'm really lucky. I have a tight-knit group of very self-aware friends, and we walk together many times a week in the forest near my house, and we talk, and we kind of help each other stay above the fray and see bigger patterns. When I really noticed that I was spiraling about my kids moving out, one of my friends just said something so simple. She said, "Well, of course you're emotional. You're grieving. You're allowed to grieve when something is also exciting and good." She just gave me permission. That was it. That sentence, that permission, that ability to hold both things at once. Like, yeah, this is good and I'm feeling a lot, right? I wasn't giving that to myself and I needed it. These friendships are deeply rewarding, and honestly, they're one of the most important tools I have personally for managing stress and change. So if you don't have your support network, start looking for these people, start building those relationships. These aren't acquaintances, they're not networking contacts, they're deep, honest, self aware friends who can hold space for your messiness and help you make sense of it. And it's worth its weight in gold. Okay, so here's what I want you to take away from today. Change hits harder than we think, always. Even positive change, even the change we choose, and even when we think we're handling it just fine, because our brains are processing threats and we're navigating transitions. And we're often doing this for multiple changes at once. So this week, I want you to do 3 things. First, create that change heat map. List all those changes that you're going through right now. Feel the feelings associated with them and get visual about what you're actually navigating. Second, give yourself permission to pause and maybe even operate at a little less than 100% for a bit. And third, check in with yourself. Have some quiet time. Take a walk with friends. Journal, whatever works for you. But create space to process what you're going through. Because here's what I know. It's okay to not be okay sometimes, even when things look fine on the surface. You can be grateful and struggling. You can be excited and overwhelmed. And you can be handling it and need some support. These things can coexist. You might be in the ending phase for one change, the neutral zone for another, and a new beginning for something else, all at the same time. And the more you can acknowledge what you're carrying, the better equipped you'll be to actually carry it and not take it out on someone else. So be kind to yourself. You're probably carrying more than you know. Now, next week, we're going to talk about how to lead others through change when you're managing your own transition. Because if you're navigating all this change, your team probably is too. So until then, thanks for listening and go lead the way. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. To learn more about my services and for lots of free resources and additional tools to enrich your journey, visit my website and subscribe to my newsletter at clairelaughlin.com. If you have a question about leadership, teams, or organizational culture you'd like me to address on the podcast, please reach out to me at support@clairelaughlin.com and connect with me on social channels at Claire Laughlin Consulting. Until next time, lead the way.